So people aren't just going to be like, yeah, let's do that system if they launch it without some sort of event that causes, fear and panic. So I think it's likely it'll get rolled into some sort of like Cyber Patriot Act after some sort of mass cyber event that the banks have all gamed out. And the WEF, which runs this partnership, the banks and all these intelligence agencies are a part of, say it is going to happen before January 2025.
Hey YouTube world, Harvard is plenty. Hey, listen, I want to give you guys some breaking news that I thought was very interesting and that you should know. It says here that World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab to step back from executive role. I will give you a couple headlines, but let me read a little bit further. It says the World Economic Forum confirmed Tuesday that founder Klaus Schwab is moving away from the day-to-day management of the organization after more than 50 years at the helm. And as I scroll down, there go Klaus. And as I scroll down, it says this. The World Economic Forum said the change in leadership will be completed before the next Davos gathering in January of 2025. Isn't that something? Now I'm going to read another headline and then I will tell you guys what I think about it. It says here on Bloomberg, World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab stepping down by 2025. The World Economic Forum transitioning to leadership by president and executive board. The WEF says its mission is to help improve the state of the world. The thought that comes to mind is they are now ready for the Great Reset. They are now ready to take everything down. He's done his job by spearheading and leading the people and installing prime ministers and presidents all across the world and penetrating the cabinets, as he said, of all of these prime ministers and presidents, and now they are ready. They are ready. But check this out. Fortune magazine. Jamie Dimon shocks Wall Street, hinting at his retirement in the next 5 years and reciting a laundry list of red flags about the global economy. Now, for those of you who don't know who Jamie Dimon is, Jamie Dimon is the head of JPMorgan Chase Bank. And Jamie has always been hinting at return within the next 5 years. It says here, Jamie Dimon caught all of Wall Street's attention on Monday. In a series of public remarks made at JPMorgan Chase Investor Day, Dimon painted a bearish picture of the global economy and hinted his retirement is nearer than many had anticipated. And as I said before, he always said that he would be retiring within the next 5 years. But here's what he said. The timetable isn't 5 years anymore, Dimon stated or said at New York City's Base Bank's annual investor meeting. In the past, Dimon repeated his plans to retire in the next 5 years so many times that it became a running joke in financial circles. But the timetable isn't 5 years anymore. It has been moved up. Now, what that actual date is that it's been moved up to, he didn't say. But he said it's no longer 5 years. He said the timetable has been changed and it has been moved up. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next 6 months. Jamie Dimon planned on stepping down. He said his timetable has been moved up. And Klaus Schwab is stepping down by January of 2025. Said it will be a power change at the World Economic Forum before January of 2025. Again, guys, I think that they're getting ready to shut it down. It's a lot of things supposed to be taking place. As I said, we're in the last generation. I know a lot of people don't want to believe it because we all got hopes, goals, aspirations, and dreams. But our time is not God's time. And these people are planning to bring an Antichrist and set off a new order, starting first with the Great Reset, World War III. I've been talking about this stuff. The EPA is talking about them shutting down the water plants. It's a lot of stuff that's going on. Over 20 million people have crossed the border within the last 3 years. It's crazy, and it's going to get even crazier. I hope you guys are prepared. If you haven't prepared by now, from all of the information that I've given you on my channel and I'm sure you guys watch other channels that's 100 times bigger than mine. I don't know what to tell you. Am I afraid? Heck no. I'm not afraid at all. I fear God. I don't fear man, and I don't think you should fear man either. Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom and knowledge. Fear him who could kill both body and soul. Don't fear him who could kill only the body. So don't fear anything. God got us. But just prepare, so we could endure to the end. All right, I'll be back with more videos. So I love you guys. Stay safe out there. Stay alert. Protect yourself at all times. Prep and prepare. Pray without ceasing. If you believe in fasting, make sure you fast as well. Keep love in your heart. Be nice to people. Love you guys. God bless.
The reason Jamie Dimon was like with Elizabeth Warren was like, we should ban all crypto. If I was the government, I would do that. That's because the commercial banks like JPMorgan want to be the entities issuing the dollar peg stable coins or the whatever stable coins or deposit tokens. They want to take, the Tether crowd and Paolo and all of those guys. They want to do it. They don't want these other companies to do it. A bank issued stablecoin is still just as surveillable and programmable as like a hypothetical CBDC would be. But this one-to-one reserve thing is a big problem for them because the bank's they want to keep their casino going. They need fractional reserve stuff to follow their existing business model. They have no intention of changing that. And it's, when you keep in mind too that like in the States specifically, the central bank is owned by the Wall Street banks. Like they're going to direct, obviously, what the central bank policy will be with respect to digital dollars, right? So, there's a reason why I think the Fed has been so like unwilling to be like, yeah, we're going to do a CBDC. They've been very like, we don't know, we're not looking at it, and there's people that have taken that as a sign that like the Fed is fighting against CBDCs, right? But not so. Remember, the DOJ holds an insane amount of Bitcoin, and that's probably only going to increase. So like with Binance, a ton of DOJ people have access not just to every transaction on that exchange from now going forward, but also everything in the past. What happens if they flag past transactions and retroactively start seizing wallets, right? Mm-hmm. They could do that. And I think with a lot of this stuff that I've been warning about for a long time, but we've seen it escalate a lot since October 7th, this claim that Bitcoin specifically is being used to finance terrorism. And you're having these pushes, to regulate based on that, like under a national security justification. I think that's a recipe for like even more DOJ like seizures, specifically of Bitcoin. And so, why is the DOJ so interested in it's a major arm of the US government. So like the US government more broadly interested in accumulating so much Bitcoin and holding onto it. And also basically creating like national security justifications to literally take anyone's Bitcoin they could possibly want under a variety of like insanely vague metrics. Like, like I've talked about before, the DOJ is part of this WEF organization that wants to label people who are accused of publishing misinformation online as cyber criminals and cyber terrorism who should have their domains and assets seized. Yeah, I know. I mean, obviously that's like everybody here. The DOJ could eventually it's a really broad net, but why are they setting that system up? You know what I mean? And I think it's important to keep in mind too that, like Gary Gensler of the SEC has made it clear very consistently for a while now that Bitcoin is the only digital currency viewed from the SEC's perspective as a commodity. Everything else is a security to Gary Gensler. So they're going to, that's a pretty unique status. They want to treat it as a commodity as they move everything into the digital currency space. And they have plans to do that and use it for their benefit. And to think they wouldn't do that is like, I think personally really naive. I mean, of course they would.
Yeah.
As it pertains to this transition to the commercial bank-controlled stablecoin, quasi-CBDC, where are they in terms of their roadmap? And how quickly do you think they can get to market with it?
That's a pretty good question. Well, I mean, so basically in this article, it focuses on this particular network that Fluent Finance, which was partnered with, this SBF Deltec thing. They're sort of in this network with like the XDC network and R3, right? And R3 is developing CBDCs all over the world, but they also have like a more like they're casting a wider net than just CBDCs. They have this thing called the Digital Currency Accelerator, and they're basically focusing on not just CBDCs, but deposit tokens and stable coins. So like any entity, banks, central banks, whatever, can like sandbox and like test out their digital currency and add programmability and all this stuff that people are concerned about when it comes to CBDCs as it relates to impacts on individual freedoms, specifically financial freedoms, right? So they've created all these tools to make it happen really fast. The question is, I think at the end of the day, like trust and adoption. And so what I've sort of brought up on some recent interviews is this stuff I've been writing about since 2021, how the biggest banks in the world and the biggest central bank, some of the most important central banks in the world, in this WEF partnership and the Carnegie Endowment, which at the time was run by the current CIA director, were basically gaming out financial cyber attacks on the financial system. And a lot of people don't know this, but the entire financial services industry in the US, so like all of the big banks have an ISAC, which is an information sharing and analysis center, where their CISOs all get together like privately and like game out threats to the system and how to respond to them. So like all the Wall Street banks have had since 2021, like a unified plan about what they'll do if there's a big cyber attack on the banks. And so if you're like, the biggest bank, these same banks that caused 2008, and that there another banking crisis and like economic calamity is inevitable, and you don't want to be blamed by people when they're angry about their money not really having value anymore. How do you get around that? I don't think they want a repeat of Occupy Wall Street. I think that's pretty clear, right? So how do you, get around that? Well, you're like, oh, well, these faceless hackers took over the financial system and we have to relaunch it with these things because it's more secure and, we'll know who everybody is, because there's this parallel push to end online anonymity and financial privacy going on here, which is part of this whole like narrative too about like Bitcoin and, financing terror transactions and stuff. Like it's all about like KYC and like linking your digital ID and government issued ID to, every transaction, having even the smallest transaction, $1, 50 cents, is surveillable by the banks and the government. Right. So people aren't just going to be like, yeah, let's do that system if they launch it without some sort of event that causes, fear and panic. So I think it's likely it'll get rolled into some sort of like Cyber Patriot Act after some sort of mass cyber event that the banks have all gamed out. And the WEF, which runs this partnership, the banks and all these intelligence agencies are a part of, say it is going to happen before January 2025. If and when this big cyber attack that they're predictively programming happens, the enemy is going to be privacy. They're going to be like, we can't have privacy anymore. That's what they're going to say. I guarantee that, because that's the only way they can, basically force adoption of all this stuff they want to do, which is CBDC's digital ID is they want everything you do online to be completely surveillable, and that includes financial transactions, like specifically financial transactions. And so people for a long time have rightly pointed out that digital IDs and CBDCs are like, they go together, right? You get both. It's not just like one or the other. Like it's a very like integrated thing. And, this is all also tied up with this goal to have the driver's license for the internet, that you have to have, your digital ID, your government issued ID tied to everything you do online. And whatever happens with this thing, they're going to blame whoever they want, really, because we know with like WikiLeaks Vault 7, right? The CIA through the Umbrage program can put like the fingerprints of literally any nation state or person they want in any cyber attack and blame them.
It was Russian bots.
Yeah, or they can, like they've been doing recently, not actually have any evidence, but then get a mainstream media highline that says Iran hacked this, China hacked this. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like it's all just fake, And a lot of those companies attributing blame, like Recorded Future, for example, has a recent one that's been surfacing. They were created by the CIA and QTEL. So like you really want to trust these guys saying like we were attacked by this nation, trust like the intelligence front company that wants to push all of this through, because the CIA director was in charge of this like whole thing that mapped out how to like bring down the banks and launch all of this shit. I mean, it's mental.